Clean Creek Community Services District Board of Directors meeting for this evening, which is the 18th of May, and which is, by the way, regular meeting night, the third Wednesday of the month. And we're going to get to the agenda by item number 1, calling to order. And we have 3 members of the board with us this evening. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along later in the agenda. At this time, number 2 on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Chuck will kindly lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda is open time pursuant to Government Code S54-950. Persons wishing to address the board of directors on matters not listed on the agenda, but under the authority of the district, should notify the secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Has anybody indicated they'd like to speak?
There are 2 speakers. Scott McVeigh will be first.
Okay, Mr. McVeigh.
Thank you, Director Fuss. Just for a point of clarification, I'm recommending that, so that you don't violate Brown Act or other issues, since this is a public entity, that the directors not be assigned to the Ag Committee, because then you're forming a standing committee and then you've got to follow Brown Act and whatnot. It should be more of an informal ad hoc, being removed from actual assignment to directors. So they would be able to attend at their leisure if their interests are there, and multiple directors, if they wanted to, could, because you would then just be interested parties in the community trying to promote and sustain agriculture in the district. All right?
Let me see if I understand what you said. Instead of the board of directors appointing people to standing committees.
No, just the ag.
Oh, just the,
Just
okay,
the
I
ag.
gotcha.
Okay, right now, if it's a standing committee, you have to have an agenda, you have to have minutes and whatnot. And the ag group, I'm gonna call it, met today, and there were 2 people from the board and myself. Now, I wish more people would show up, but I don't see a need for making it a formal standing committee and having to follow all of the Brown Act rules. I think it would be ad hoc or more informal to skirt some of those issues. Unless at some point in the future, you guys feel that there really is a need.
Okay.
If I may. Sure. We had already recognized that we were ad hoc. I had discussed this with Bill. I discussed that we would need to have an agenda. And so all we're gonna do, in my opinion, would be to simply recognize that. And I had had a brief conversation with Beverly, and she had also discussed this, and I agreed with her.
So you're gonna stick with an agenda and follow the Brown Act?
This is ad hoc.
Okay.
That's
Fair enough.
confirmed.
All right.
You're confirming what I had discussed with Bill, confirmed with Beverly, and you're the second member of the community to point this
Then
out.
I would suggest only as part of that it not be an assignment for the directors. Okay, so when you change up and vote on new chairman and whatnot, change the assignments, it really shouldn't be an assigned committee or 10.
We're attempting to keep ag alive.
Okay, just a suggestion,
That's
okay?
why we appointed people in the beginning. And we sort of touched on some of this in our brief ad hoc meeting earlier. Thank you.
So you're working on it.
We made a decision. Ad hoc, Bill has consensus,
Okay.
and between the 2 of us, what we're doing is that we're simply keeping ag alive. We don't want to just kick it to the curb.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would care to speak?
Sally Lynn,
Sally, please. Thank you.
So I volunteer in the district office, I just want to attest to what these people do in that office. It seems like they're being scrutinized a lot, maybe.
Could you speak louder?
Oh, I'm saying about the staff in the office.
Yeah.
Seems like people are scrutinizing what they're doing and how they're doing it and what they should be doing. And I just want to tell you that these people are doing the best they can. They're doing as much as they can. They're not screwing around. You know, people are getting things done. And it took a while to get us in the position we were in. It's gonna take a while to get us out, you know, get things on even keel, you know. And, partly, the customers are at fault too. We don't have phone numbers to call them. They change their phones like they changed, you know, their bed, you know, I'm telling you. And then just calling these people is an undertaking, you know. So these people, they're doing the best they can, and if we can let Bill do his job, it would be better use of his services than to be scrutinized, you know. And they're not out there to get you, you know. They're doing the best they can, and everybody's, you know, Christians, and we got, Christine now, and so I just felt like I had to attest to their abilities and what's going on, you know, so, okay. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sally, appreciate it. Thank you, Sally. Appreciate the staff. These guys are working hard, really hard.
Doing an awesome job.
Most of the time.
Okay.
Nobody is.
Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, would anybody else care to speak at this time? They open it on now? Still open, before we go to the regular agenda. Okay, thank you all. We'll go now to the consent agenda, and the following items are expected to be routine. Any interested party may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for later discussion. And the paid bills are $325, $330, $408, $414, $425, $422, $428, $510, and the payroll is $429, $513, and the minutes of $427, $22. Is there anyone that cares to pull anything from the agenda? If not,
I'll make a motion.
we have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Right.
I'll make a second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried, okay. Now,
If I may, what I did was that I made a clarification with Bill with regards to the same consent agenda from last month. And my question was with the discussion that we had, the items that were removed, was if what we did was that we completed everything so that last month's consent agenda has now been completed and accepted and finalized.
Not last month's. Part of last month's consent agenda contained an agenda item tonight, but last month that item were activity reports, which were pulled from the consent agenda last month, because there was a lot of questions and I couldn't provide a lot of the answers. I brought the answers with me. Everybody, this is Christy Sartori, this is our new bookkeeper.
and those items that were on the consent agenda now are on our regular agenda.
Correct. So they're an agenda item tonight.
Okay.
So to clarify, this is not the same consent agenda as last month.
I understand. Okay. So the consent agenda has been approved. We'll move now down to item number 5, new business, old business. And before we start with the director vacancy application review and appointment, I think it's proper to make an announcement at this time. Bill, would you like to make that announcement for us?
Effective yesterday, Cedric White has resigned his position on the board of directors. We received a letter of resignation. So, as of yesterday, we have another position open. And this will have to be open for 15 days, and we'll have to make a selection inside of 60 days, which will be at the next regular meeting in June. It could be. That's the short version.
All right. So then, we then move to A, the director vacancy application review appointment and discussion and action item. We do have two people that have applied for the position, and we will identify them, and of course, I see one of them's here tonight, Scott McVeigh, is Patricia here?
Next to Sally.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board? You wanna, start by interviewing these candidates first, and then maybe open it up to discussion in the audience?
Yes.
And then we'll make a decision?
Yeah, I think we should hear from him.
Okay.
They come to the floor.
Yeah, if you come to
Yeah.
the podium. Scott, would you like to start?
Be happy to. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah.
Scott McVeigh, community member for 20+ years. I've been involved with the Happy Go Community Committee for the last few years. I'm retired corporate manager. I'm used to hiring, firing, I understand the financials. I'm interested in building up the district to be sustainable well after I'm gone. What do I bring to the table? Business savvy, this is a business. I have vetted and hired and fired managers in the past. Like I said, I understand the financials, I have a knack for numbers. And now's a good time for me because you're looking for another general manager. I'd like to be involved in that process, to vet them, question them, get a good feel for what hopefully will be a long-term solution in management for the district. It's important that we pick the right person. Okay? I don't know who the other lady is, Patricia. I see from reading her application, she does have some water district experience. I'm not gonna say anything about it because I don't know the individual. I have been here for years. I'm an ag customer, but I'm concerned about the widow, the veteran, the retiree living paycheck to paycheck too.
The what, I'm sorry?
The widows, the veterans, anybody living paycheck to paycheck, the NI customers. I'm vocal, I'm outspoken, I'm not afraid to go to committee meetings, EAGSA, I've been there a couple of times. It doesn't bother me to get up and open time and speak to concerns I have. I, in a sense, paying my dues, I've been a volunteer down here. You know, during the dark days when we were short-staffed, and it was fun every day, wasn't it, Bill?
That's right.
An experience. Any questions from the board members?
You are a registered voter, right?
I am.
There you go.
And I live in the district.
I've got one question.
Go right ahead.
You just made a comment that in my opinion was out of order.
I'm Todd.
When you referred to district staff, and you referred to district staff that they're not always doing a good job.
Oh, Bill and I kid each other.
I'm not interested in jokes. This is a board meeting, and that type of language is unacceptable to me.
I understand your comment. I apologize.
It's out of order. Thank you.
Bill, if I offended you, I apologize. It was not intended. Johanna, anything?
No.
Okay, Erwin,
No, that's it, thank you.
thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Patricia Delzell, if you would, please. Good evening,
Good evening.
nice to meet you.
Well, I'm just gonna make it short and sweet. I have a degree in computer science in the county. I worked at Sonoma County Water Agency. I was the head of the IT department. Before that, I was teaching while going to school for the programming aspects. I can work a computer like magic. I can
did it, all of it. Paid the payroll, went to the bank. The department, the IT worked under was accounting in those days. The boss was the accountant. So we did all the accounting programs, so I'm well aware of that aspect of things. I just would like the challenge, and I think I'm honest. I'm not usually a problem unless I see something wrong, and but I won't make a loud voice. I just believe in fairness and rightness, and I see a problem, and I like to help solve it. And so my neighborhood on Flowers asked me to come here and apply. I thought that was really wonderful. Is there any questions you have that you can answer?
Yes, I do. What prompted you to put in the application?
I was looking for a job, I'm retired, and I'm not a housekeeper at all. I worked my whole life and raised children, but I'm not a housekeeper. I like being around people, I like to work, I like a challenge. And, we moved up here. I originally lived in Paradise, we bought a place on Flowers, cause I was running little chickens and things like that. And, the ladies invited me to lunch, and we got to be friends, and they told me that I should apply. And I felt honored, and a little nervous, but I think I'm up to the challenge.
Are you please, are you a domestic customer or an ag customer?
Who?
Are you a domestic customer or an ag customer?
Yes.
Domestic customer, okay. How long have you been in the district?
I came just before the water went away.
2 years.
We're doing just fine.
Well, the water went away several times.
I'm thrilled that we got some more water.
Okay.
That's all I can say, and we're doing just fine.
I asked Mr. McVeigh,
Having been raised, a little poor, I'm quite aware of the ways to save.
How many people on Flowers asked you? How many people on Flowers asked you?
So there's about 10 or 12 of us that meet every Thursday, or every first Thursday of every month.
So you have your own meeting?
Well, actually, we have lunch, you just kind of, you know,
And so you discuss water?
they asked what I used to do, and I said I used to work for the water agency, and their eyes lit up, and said, we need you.
So you didn't bring any of your supporters tonight then?
Oh, I didn't even tell anybody after that. But if you ask me, I have.
So there's no, you don't have any problems to go through, for instance, a budget?
A what?
A budget, you don't have any problems to go through a budget and understand items that are on a budget at all, do you?
Not if it makes sense. I mean, you know, you start using scripted notes and stuff, and I don't know the code, I might have a bit of a problem, but other than that, no, I'm familiar with accounting.
And you're familiar with putting together agendas for a
I
meeting?
only did the budget for the programming side, I didn't do the full budget.
And so you're not a certified public accountant, but
No, I'm not.
you do the accounting
I
work.
have an accounting degree and I have a computer science degree, and like I said, the accountant would say payroll has to be changed, we need to be 2 weeks now, and it's gotta be ready by Monday.
And so you have an accounting degree,
Man,
a minor?
Yeah.
With a major in computer.
yes.
Congratulations.
Any other questions?
one more question, I asked, Mr. McVeigh, are you a registered voter?
Absolutely.
Good, okay. Now, you probably wonder why I asked that. And the reason I asked that is because you have to be a registered voter to be able to sit on this board.
Well, that's another honor to be able to look.
So that's why I asked. Thank you.
What do you feel about agriculture in our community?
ducks, and I got chickens, and I'm getting a goat, and so, but mostly animals, and I'm growing a garden. I'm
Yeah.
thrilled. I had a pond. Got a little bit of a pond now, but, the fish are gone. But, there'll be more fish. They don't name my fish.
You say you came from Paradise?
Yeah,
Did you lose your house in Paradise?
yeah,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, I lived in Petaluma, and my son moved to Paradise, and he wanted me to come up, buy him.
Sorry to hear that.
So he's in Tennessee now. I go to Tennessee.
So, let's see, the person she would be replacing would be Dave, right?
Yes, and
And Dave would be up for election in
in
November,
November,
okay?
so you'd have to run for the seat in November.
In November. So, what I wanna point out is that has to be done before August 12th or 15th.
July 17th through August 8th.
August, yeah,
Actually, if you choose her tonight, she just has to indicate that she wants to run again to remain on the board. And then individuals wanting to run for that spot or anything else in November would have to go to the register of voters between July 17th and August 8th
yeah.
to submit the paperwork.
So are you saying then that she can roll over, or she still needs to?
If she's on the board, she would automatically roll over if nobody ran against her.
That's right,
Yeah,
but she has to go down and apply.
Right, but
Right.
that's typically
Well, whoever-
done
whoever
through the district.
Has to go down and formally apply.
right.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
And you're agreeable to that then?
Pardon?
You would be
Oh,
agreeable to
absolutely, new learning experience, absolutely.
that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any, okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak about this appointment before we deliberate here and then make the choice? If not, we'll bring it back to the board and what's your favorite?
I would choose, I don't know the lady's first name.
Patricia.
Patricia. That would be my selection. She's got an accounting degree. That was a minor, there was a major in the computer programming. And it seems to me that a lot of what we're gonna work through for a period of time is the same type of thing that Scott talks about, or that we all talk about, which is how are we gonna do things longhand? How are we gonna solve accounting issues along with whatever happens with the computer program? From my side, I'm more used to people who could write programs themselves. No, I haven't done this type of in-depth budget where there's a general ledger and all the rest of those items, and that's what we need. And we're not, at this point now, looking at one seat, we're looking at two. And you've got a group of people in your neighborhood on flowers, which is good. So you're in your committee and you're starting to do some acting yourself. I mean, you've got tops, so maybe a pond or something. And, we're in for the long haul with the water. And hopefully the water that you have on the flowers, I don't know how the, distribution system works there, but that's satisfactory.
She reminds me of Faye Morgan. She was-
Sandy,
Huh?
if you have something to say, could you come up to the podium, please?
So let me see if my knee will let me.
What's that?
Her knee is bad.
Oh,
She said it might hurt.
well, I can't hear her back there.
Okay, I'll talk loud.
Thank you very much.
She reminds me of a lady we used to have on our financial committee. Her name was Faye Morgan. She was the head of the Friendly Hills Coalition. She represented a lot of people, and she did an excellent job. I think this lady would too.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Jones has said his choice is Ms. Delzell. I'd ask you so will I, but I only to get this over with. But we have another
Right.
appointment.
Right.
And I'd like to see you put
Come
your
back.
name in.
Yeah.
Would you?
I'll consider it.
Okay,
I've applied 5 times now, and been rejected 5 times.
that's all
I'm
right.
not sure you would even consider me the next time.
I would.
I would.
You guys said that last time.
Patricia, it looks like we have, put you on the board. So if you come up this way, and, can you do the
Oh, the oath of
the oath of
office.
office, we need the
I
oath of
would be
office.
glad.
Come around this way, and, let me get you a chair. Because you'll be making decisions for the rest of the evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for applying. Okay. Have you
Do
got
we
the
have the
oath of office?
office?
He has an issue.
Should be right there in front of you.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay.
Just repeat after me. I.
She needs to raise her right hand, please.
Raise your right hand.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservations
without any reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
that I will
and faithfully
faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations and welcome.
Congratulations, Patricia, welcome, have a seat. Thanks again.
Oh, already?
Okay. So now we'll get down to the rest of the business here. And the next item on the agenda, now you need an agenda, don't you? I don't see which- Oh, you got one on the sheet? Here we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we're down to item number 5B. And it indicates here director assignments, and it's like vice chair. Well, we haven't even really picked the chairman, so we need to pick a chairman and the vice chair, I would think, at this juncture.
I would recommend that we wait till we have.
We could do that. What do you think about that, Chuck?
That's fine, that's what we did the last time, we put a name in the hat.
Yeah, well, I didn't think we were gonna be doing a name and a hat.
Will we do the name in the hat the next time? or-
No.
Well, that's a good question, yeah, because, right now, you have an interim chairman, that's me, because my name was picked out of a hat, but that doesn't necessarily mean we'll have me as the chairman for the next, meeting. So, I guess the way to do this, legally or realistically, is to pick a chairman and a vice chairman, and so that will be the situation for the next meeting. Unless you wanna just pick a chairman and forget the vice chairman, so, that won't work. I think
Interim chairman until you get a full.
you can do an interim, yeah, we can do that, we can pick an interim
Would you
chairman.
with an interim until you get a full?
Yeah, interim chairman for the next meeting.
Right,
So, there you go, that would work.
okay.
What's not clear to me is because we've had a finance committee that would have a meeting. We've got a negotiating team that at some point would have a meeting. Right. I know. And so what, now we're back where
We don't have.
everything is gonna have to get, decided. And so we're really gonna be in limbo with the negotiating committee and the finance committee. So I'm not quite sure how we're gonna satisfy those demands. Thank you.
Think I would nominate, you to be the chair.
Well, that's up to the board. to
That's the
discuss.
board, yeah.
But thank you very much for the suggestion.
Recommendation.
I don't know if you're doing me any favors or not. Okay.
How about you, somebody else wants to.
Scott?
You've got a few things you've got to consider. One, you should be setting up interviews for the whole board to ask questions of the candidates for any general manager, and that's gotta be done right away. Because if you delay it until you have a full board next month, you're up against it. So that was one of the reasons I was interested in being on the board now, is because I wanted to be involved in that hiring process. It's something I've done a lot of.
Yeah, you're correct about that. We need to
Okay,
move
so
forward.
you need to decide that. The finance committee, well, you can kind of maybe next month work on some of this, unless you have an urgent need for any financial discussions. I mean, the district office is doing a good job so far, getting the check registers, the activity reports out and whatnot. I think the pressing thing is the personnel committee. You were on that, was it you, Chuck, also?
Yes,
Okay,
well,
so
we're already
Yeah.
assigned to that.
But have you set up interview times yet for these three candidates?
Well, that's a good point. I was gonna make reference to that a little later on in the agenda down where it says, 6 standing committee reports general manager vacancy update.
You wanna hold off until
Let me hold it off until then.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But Bill, in terms of the union, have they gotten back to you yet with anything that they want to do in terms of a meeting?
Nothing in the near future.
Okay, so there's no rush for that.
Well, what I would like to propose is simply that because both you and I have already been on the personnel committee, we can stay on the personnel committee.
Correct.
And then now it would be appropriate for you to replace Cedric. And what you had done was that we all agreed, and we prefer, you simply recommended Cedric, and we had changed where Cedric was the new board chairman, Dave was the new vice chair, and it was appropriate perhaps for Cedric as chairman and myself then to negotiate with the union. So if you don't mind, is this an appropriate time for us to, well, we've had discussion, do we need to open this up to the public, or can we move forward, make a motion, second motion, and, confirm it?
So what you're suggesting is that the personnel committee as it stands today, which is you and I, then would then act as the negotiating committee with the union when they come back with their requests.
I would prefer not to have a lapse whatsoever with regards to that. I've got a comment with regards to lack of progress. And the last thing that I'm interested in doing is, well, I'm gonna make it a lot more simple. I disagree with the delays.
You disagree with what?
The delay,
Oh, okay.
and I'm gonna stop it right there.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but what I'm hearing from Bill is that the union is the one that the ball's in their court.
Well,
Is that it?
I'm not convinced of that. What we can do is that we can address that all that I'd like to do is to confirm, I'd like to make a motion, that we maintain the negotiating team and the personnel committee as it stands.
Okay,
Oh, I totally agree.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I have no
Are you
problem.
willing to make a
Okay.
motion?
Yeah, what, did you
Will
make
you
that
make a
motion?
motion?
Do we need
I'll
a
second
second?
it.
Okay,
And we'll vote?
okay, any comments from anybody?
Oh,
Okay, I think we can at this point, we've already made the motion and the second. So if there's no other further comment from anybody in the board, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None opposed. So, the Personnel Committee, consisting of Erwin Fuss and Chuck Jones, will then take the place of the Negotiating Committee, which used to be Chuck Jones and Cedric White. Is that right?
correct.
Okay. All right, so let's move on then to this
Okay.
issue of the selection of a chair.
John,
And
did you have a comment?
No, I was just gonna say, I think you should be the chair until next time. We won't have a full vote.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would agree with that,
Yeah,
yeah. And then at the next board meeting,
right,
we will appoint a 5-member board, and that 5-member board will pick a chair or vice chair.
Yes.
That would work well. Okay, I would go along with
I'll
that.
make a motion.
Yeah, please.
I'd like,
okay.
I'd like to make a motion that Erwin would be the chairman.
Interim chair.
Interim chair.
Up to 2 meetings.
Patricia, would you like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Right, we have a motion and a second for Erwin Fuss to stay as interim chair for this meeting and next meeting, up to the point where the agenda item, the next meeting, will then, appoint another board member, and after that board member is appointed, then a new chairman and vice chair will be picked. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Okay. 5C, activity reports for 9/21, 10/21, 11/21, and 12/21. And this is a discussion item, and partly brought on by the questions that came out of the HVCC committee, and frankly, questions that I had too about all of this, and I've been having for quite some time. How do you want to start this off?
What
Bill-
month do they have the
Bill-
most questions in?
How do you want to start this off?
So
September?
this is on the agenda for discussion and action. The action will be approval. The question, there was a lot of questions. There were some that were presented to us from the HBCC, that we responded to, and I don't know where we're at with that. I didn't get a counter response. And if the board had any questions, because the director had questions the last month about these activity reports that we didn't get to talk about. So someone can begin,
Okay.
so we can provide
Well, I've
clarification.
got a few questions. I looked at all of the activity reports, and I'm just referring now to the activity report for 12/2021. Because the other ones are somewhat okay, but, on page 1 of the operating sales, someone has circled under year-to-date, that would be a half a year, year-to-date, under penalty exceed water allocation, a total of $287,403. And how do you come up with a figure that much?
Which month are we talking about?
This would be the activity report.
Page 1.
And on page 1, under operating sales, and down at the middle of the page, it says penalty exceed water allocation, and under year-to-date, which is this year, it says an amount of $287,403.
Nonsense.
And that's a lot of
Sort of that job ordinance. And did you have penalties in effect prior to that job ordinance, so for that summer?
No, the penalty started in
August, September,
July or August.
August or September.
So to answer that question, I would love to make a note and look into that a little bit more and give you an answer, provide an answer back. So what you're seeing here is when you're looking at those reports that look like this, that's out of Bucks.
That's what?
Out of Bucks, your financial software from Frag.
Right.
Right, so for those who aren't familiar, it's a three-legged software. So you've got your payroll, your customer basis platform, and then your financial leg. The financial leg has not all of its modules to do its entire job. It only has 2 modules. It's missing a key piece, which is the reconciliation piece. And so it's unable to drill down. So like, for example, I couldn't just open that number and take me to what creates that number. It's cause and effect, going back to the journal entries to see where they got that from. And unfortunately, December 21 predates me. I've only been here 3 months.
Yeah, well, you know, I have to say, this has been the situation for several years now, and I've been asking questions about that.
Yeah, I can see
And
that.
the answer that we get is that, well, we don't know, it's in the software, but the software won't tell us where it comes from.
So that I can answer better for you than that.
Okay.
So if you wanted to go back in September and hit real fast on some of the questions, I watched the video of your guys' last board meeting and the questions that you brought up. And so I can give you pretty much the front and the back end of that piece. There's a middle part that our auditor has right now that I've been working very closely with to make sure they're getting the information not that has been done by a human outside of your software on Excel, but that plus what's actually in your software, reports that are in your software, good, bad, or ugly. They're getting it all, and they're working really hard to put it all together for you.
Well, now as I understand it, we're supposed to eliminate all these questions by moving to QuickBooks, right?
Yes, that is the plan, and Bill and I met about that kind of, I would rather do it right and not bring in the trouble from Bucks into QuickBooks. So when I spent pretty much yesterday on the phone and in correspondence through portal and emails with the outside auditor. And I feel like they're doing a fantastic job for us. So we talked about kind of where that starting point would be. So the fiscal that they're auditing now is really backing up to what we're getting ready to end a new fiscal right now. So we're kind of playing a balancing game, not to mention, because we don't want to bring forward bad numbers, but there's a whole year in between by the time they get done with the one they're working on. And Bucks is interesting in the way that it will only let us look back and make adjustments to one previous year. It's literally called previous year. And it's a whole different, it's like a sub-software. It'll save your last fiscal year and put it in a different place on your computer. So once you're done working on this year, you can make changes to this year. But if you roll over to a third year, which is what we're 5 minutes from, right? Because June 30th of this year is the end of a third fiscal in question. So now we've got a timeline that went from here to here to really make some changes and move and get some answers, some correct numbers. So working with the auditors to circle back, but full disclosure, I'm trying to answer all your questions and let everybody know where we're at and bringing everything forward. The auditor, they're having a conversation to decide if they feel like we can use the numbers that they're going to, their final numbers and adjusting entries on what they're auditing now. And then we're gonna have to build an entire fiscal year into QuickBooks before we're up to date, which is never a good idea because that year in the middle is a problem. So I felt like as long as everybody knew what we were up against And we're bringing, here's the hard numbers, and here's the answer to the questions, and all the transparency that we're working for. The information that I've gotten from the public is that they would rather we go in with good numbers, fresh start in QuickBooks, and not just try to push it faster, and bring people in our practice.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, because it's, you know, what we got right now, was the past activity reports have been very questionable.
So I do know one of the questions you guys all had, on every month that appeared, was why there was a difference between what this page looks like. It's called an account listing, and it's something out of a spreadsheet that you all saw on the front of your packets.
Yeah.
So I don't see on electronic file where these have been consistently presented in your board packets. But what these is an electronic spreadsheet where someone would go and look at the actual statements for the bank accounts and put the ending balances here as they match up, or as they should match up with your general ledger, okay? So then what would happen in bucks, they would make whatever edits they're gonna make in bucks, their general journal entries at the end of the month, because it's not an actual task by task entry, it's journal entries, because there's not enough modules to do it any other way. So then they make this up, and it prints out bucks. So the first question was, why sometimes is like the merchant account a different account balance than what is shown on here? The difference is an outstanding deposit or a check that hadn't yet cleared by the time the statement ended, right? So let's say we wrote checks for every board member here, and it just happened to be on the 30th of the month because they gave their service to the meeting today. By the time the statement cleared, we're still going to show in our system that that is outstanding. Those are encumbered funds. But when the statement clears, those checks haven't yet cleared. When the statement ends, those checks haven't cleared. So that's why there's a difference between that and that, to answer that question. Then I think you also asked at the last board meeting, we need to know how much the public said. We need to know how much money we actually have if we're talking about hiring a GM. So when I watched the video to kind of be able to see what information should come back, Bill and I talked about including this, because regardless of what Bucks says, if you print out this page on the GL, this is true and accurate. So as the public, I would want to know, if I was sitting in your seat, which is why we're here, to give that information to the public, right? We work for you, that this is the information, this is what comes from the statements. Those are the actual ending balances at the bank. Does that help?
Okay.
Okay. And then, I think we answered all the questions of the,
I have one more.
okay.
I'm mystified by this. On all of the activity reports, and I'm referring to, again, the activity report for December of 2021 on page 2. And under other revenue. And I've had this problem for years, and it doesn't seem to get rectified. But on all of the activity reports, September, October, November, when you look at as you go down the way, and you look under miscellaneous sales revenue, for the current year, it's always 0. It has been 0. And then all of a sudden in December, it's $13,467. Where'd that money come from? And what is that money?
I'll be happy to look into that for you. I wasn't here again in that time frame, so that would be something that on your chart of accounts, there's many, right? I would have to look into that for you. I would guess you had something that was an unusual revenue that is not your common, and whoever your accountant was at the time decided that that was the most appropriate place to code it.
Okay, well, we've got other revenue put in there that, in my estimation, shouldn't have been put in there.
Sure.
Like for instance, on page 2 there, last year, for miscellaneous sales revenue, $276,000. We didn't have extra revenue of $276,000. So how'd that get in there?
So that, yeah, the last year to date,
Yeah, and, you know, so
and when
we
you.
gotta get this straightened out. We've been trying to do this for years.
Sure.
And I think we're going to the QuickBooks will be hopefully the answer to this. Where we will have a lot more line items to put things in, and we can be able to identify them, and be certain that that's what is there.
So we could have added, or y'all, before I came, could have added line items to this, added accounts into your GL. But the way they had chosen to do it is what you have.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you're gonna look into those two things.
I absolutely can.
Okay, good, I'll check back with you then on that.
Okay. So the miscellaneous sales revenue, you'd like some more information on just for December or the year? Because that's a calendar year. Did you want me to look at something else?
Well, just the two, the on page 1,
Penalties exceeded?
why we have such a, under penalty exceed water allocation,
Okay.
$287,000, why do we have that? Where'd that come from? And then all of a sudden, in December, under other revenue, the miscellaneous sales revenue, we suddenly have $13,467. Where'd that come from? And what is it? And is it really truly revenue?
Valid questions. It may not be, I can tell you where it came from. I'll be able to drill down and show you what it was that they chose to put there. And then going forward, if we wanna look at that in a different way.
Okay. I'll get with you on that.
Okay.
Any other questions from any members of the board? Yes, ma'am?
I'm confused. Are you setting up QuickBooks? Is that what you're doing?
We will be, yes.
Yeah, switching
We're
over.
switching over from, that three-leg software.
Do you need help with that?
I absolutely would love some input. I have a solid background in setting up QuickBooks, yeah, yes.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
One of the things that we've asked
Could,
meeting
excuse me, could you come up to the podium?
She's not gonna need to.
You know, maybe somebody in the community might donate a sound system to us.
or a hearing aid.
What's that? I didn't hear that.
Will this new system, or will you include one of the things that I know Scott always asks, and I would really like to know too, is how much money has not been collected and how much money still is floating out there that we need to get in?
So absolutely, and I think that we've been diligently working on that. Sally has spearheaded, a campaign, a process. A process,
Can you come up for a minute, please, Sally?
campaign, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that might be.
So, that's definitely, and then Bill and I were talking tonight, I can see a lot of room for, improvement on how we're looking at how much water we're, putting out, how much water we're paying for, acquiring, and how much is actually being used. And I realize that when it comes in and when it's actually paid for, there's a little bit of lapse in time, but the overall concept is the same. The net should still be the net, and so Bill and I were kind of talking about how we would integrate that a little bit more. The reports in QuickBooks are so much more friendly. I think the public is going to like them so much better because they're what you're used to seeing. There's how we all look at finance. This software has been super limited to provide reports because it doesn't have all of its functionality. The different modules are a fee to make the software whole. And even our current auditors are having a little bit of a struggle. We're trying to find workarounds on how we are having to find workarounds on how we're providing information. So we're giving the whole picture, since we're trying not to just give them what we've recreated outside the software, but actually provide them with the software has contained and has the financials have been reported through that software. So it's only just that they're looking at that. So if you want to talk about what you're doing.
So will
responding. We've had to go through the, logistics of, the bill, and then a delinquent, and then a 24-hour. But we started out with a delinquent with a letter offering the options of, several options of a payment plan, and otherwise, this is what's gonna happen, narrowing it down to a 24-hour shut-off notice. Well, and we really started getting some response. Part of our problem is the phone numbers, and people say to this day, why are the prices so high? Well, I used to pay $40 a month, and I said, well, when did you open your bill last? Because really, that's what it is. They have not opened their bill, and if you don't push these people, they're just gonna say, oh, I didn't pay it last month, and I don't, they didn't call me, I don't have to, I'll just see what happens this month, and on and on and on. Until they push the envelope, but we are getting a lot more response, which is leading to Kristen and Jennifer, a lot more work for them, because I have all these people coming in the lobby and paying the bill, and calling on the phone. So we really have been, I can't specifically say X number has been collected or what, but it is really thinning down the accounts receivable accounts. And, they're finally paying attention and realizing that we're not messing around. We sent out a few 24-hour notices, and they come in and they set up the payment plan, and that's the best we can do, because they've got it so far out there, they're not gonna come up with $2,500 in a whack, So we're trying to work with them like that, so money's better than none. And then the other thing I'm investigating is putting liens on people's property. These people that have a piece of property, they live in Reading, and they don't understand that if you have water to your land, that you still get the 1081 service fee, because there's the sewer, and there's the filtration, and et cetera, comes up to 1081, and they just don't understand that that's always gonna be there. So I'm investigating liens, and that's the best thing we can think to come up with for those people that are just not gonna do anything. When they sell their land, or the people die, there's people that have estates that have died, and they're not doing anything with their bills. That's the best way to do, lien on their property that way, through the estate. So, does that answer your question? I don't know.
Thank you.
So, okay.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you,
Anyone
Sally.
else? Any other question?
Good job, Sarah.
If not, we'll then move on to, since this was a discussion item, and the discussion goes on, we'll move on to item number 5D, which is the draft budget review, and this is discussion as well, because this is the time when we look at the draft budget. Oh, wait a minute.
Did you see there's also an action item on that?
Oh, activity reports?
Yeah.
Oh, this is action. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I missed the action.
Only on 1 month.
So this,
Only on 1 month you had questions. You only had questions on 1 month.
on 1 month.
So you could close out September, October, November's, vote to accept them,
Yeah,
and hold off on December.
on December, yeah, okay.
That would be very helpful. I'm trying to get to the board into the public review in chunks. So I guess I said last board meeting, the board meeting before, my goal was to have those 3 months closed for September. Wasn't on my radar because that was already closed, just hadn't been approved. So October, November, December, so we can get those closed and at least move forward into this year. So then still working with the outside bookkeeper, because we're juggling so many things at the same time. Try to close January, February, March, because we're looking at another, and like I said before, almost in the fiscal end.
So the action would be acceptance of these. I'll tell you right now, I'm not willing to vote to say that either 9, 10, or 11 months were correct. I don't know. I just don't know. I'll accept them for what they are, as far as the vote is concerned, but I wouldn't put a stamp of approval on any of them. So, what are you
So
asking us to do? Are you asking us to approve these as done deals?
Do you have changes or suggestions, or, because they are what they are.
They are what they are, but nobody can seem to to substantiate that they're correct.
So I can tell you that the information that you've been provided on the outside of this, so not in Bucks, I cannot support what's in Bucks, I wasn't.
Yeah. I know
I'm so
that.
sorry.
I know that. And not everyone can do that.
The outside bookkeeper and I, there's been 2 sets of eyes on October, November, December. I can't speak to September. So we set ourselves, we went through, we take the reports that come out of Cubic, which is your your customer account software. And all of those are your receivables, and it's general journal entries. So how they in October, November, or December accounted for expenditures, that would be what you're talking about. And the line items that you see that are very large and in question, the 2 that you mentioned, that would be something that they had chosen to account for that way, but the dollars would still have to have gone through the software. A suggestion may be that you accept them as presented and pending and noting special circumstance, and that they will be audited by your new outside auditor.
I could support that.
Yeah.
They are truly in depth going through
Yeah.
line by line, and
Yeah.
the chart of accounts that you see here and the general ledger, it's not gonna look the same in QuickBooks. There's accounts that have been abandoned in here and not zeroed on the GL, on the general ledger. There's accounts that should have been set up when working with like liabilities or equities that maybe weren't, interests that were maybe not being shown where they should have been, is what the findings seem to be. And it's simply just the way they chose to set up the accounts. It's not that it's not there, it's just that they the money still flowed through. I think you guys also had a question on taxes.
Well, I think we,
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure the questions that the public had from this letter and the board meeting got addressed. So we do get tax deposits, tax revenues from Shasta County in January and May of every year. You guys have budgeted for about $350,000 on the revenue side coming into your district. Over my look back, doing this for the last 3 months has been the last 2 years. That's been my look back, because remember, I was also trying to work on today. So that's how your budget has looked, and you've kind of brought that in. I believe that, I'm not sure I turned it off. You just got another deposit from, you got one in January, and you just got another one. I think it's $350. I think I gave that to you, total now and change.
Yeah, very close to 350,000.
Yeah.
how much was it?
In for the last 5 months, and that's kind of what you've been receiving annually.
350,000. Yeah, that's more like it.
Well,
Scott?
I'm saying, can we put together the motion that she suggested?
Yeah.
Well, open to public comment. Does your comment relate to?
Yes, it does. Just in reference to the 350,000, was that for the annual disbursement or just?
It is, so your annual comes in 2 payments. It
Correct.
comes in January and May,
Right.
and you just received your second of that.
So the total for the 2 was just under 350.
Yeah, and I think it was just a change over. I'm sorry, I thought I put it
Doesn't
out
matter.
there, y'all.
350.
But yeah, that's exactly, so that does come in,
So
and it
not
comes
the
in those
370,
months.
35.
And it comes in
Yeah,
directly. I think
yeah,
the
yeah.
question was, what account does it go to? It goes to your general fund
Right.
checking account, automatic deposit straight from the county. So nobody's hands touches it, it goes right into your general fund.
So you got 350, yeah, she told me what, 374?
374, right?
What's the difference? I'm not sure.
So, Erwin, I'm shooting from the hip. I can tell you if I walk back to my desk what the actual number is. But it's right there. There may not be a difference. I don't know who she is. Who told you something?
I think you're close in the ballpark.
Actually,
Where
I
I
think
started
I
to question
typed
the
it into
situation
your
was
answer.
when Bill put the budget together, and in property taxes, he put down $35,000.
I can answer.
Well, then he moved it to $100,000.
So
It's more like $350,000.
So the actual answer is, to date of this year, $360,953.91. So you received 207,123.37 in January.
Yeah.
And then just in May, you received 153,830.54.
Yeah.
The total 360.93 deposited into your general fund to date for this year.
Yeah, we got it. Well, so anyway, so we, what you're suggesting is, we have a motion that just express what she just told. So at least the motion that I got from what you suggested was that, we accept the activity reports for, September, October and November, subject to the, what's the word I wanna use?
As presented,
As
with
what?
the, as presented, with the understanding that they are being reviewed in depth by the auditor.
By the auditor, yeah.
And
very
in that
good.
case, if you felt so appropriate, you could also include December in that case.
Yeah,
Okay, I can go for that.
okay. You wanna include
Well,
December?
Restated.
I think we'll pick that up.
Let me try the motion again. So the motion, well, is this motion you're gonna make?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the motion,
When I-
as I understand it, is that we would accept the, activity reports for September, October, November,
And December.
and December, yeah, and December, accept them. Still got some questions about a few things.
As presented.
Yeah.
As
As
presented.
presented, put that in the motion.
As presented.
As presented,
Yeah.
and subject to the review of the auditor.
I think that's very fair.
Okay? So that's your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none opposed, we'll move on now to 5D, the draft budget review. And again, I started to mention that because we brought up the action that we needed to do. Thank you very much for that. But the draft budget that's presented tonight would be our draft budget that would be presented for adoption, subject to change, next month. Okay. With that, are there any questions about the draft budget, first of all, from any members of the board? If not, let's open it up to the public. Scott, you had some?
Thank you. Just two items, one under expenses and one under revenue.
Okay.
Under expenses, I did not see anything listed for the insurance for the vehicles. I know I had this discussion with you, Bill. Under, the maintenance or whatever, there's no listings for the vehicle expenses. I'm wondering if that was included somehow in the 10,000 or the 1,500 for the filtration plant?
The auto insurance policy or the?
Right, auto, it included the dump truck with the trailer, all those insurance expenses, I didn't see them.
We just had a meeting with our insurance and it was talked about, it's built into one of the policies. I can clarify that.
Oh, thank you. The only other thing then would be on page 2, under general taxes, it's listed at 300,000.
Yeah.
Would it be more accurate to list it at 360?
360, sure.
Okay, that's all I have.
The numbers on the vehicles seem a little low to me. On the maintenance, maybe. And then it almost looked like maybe you picked up a little bit more of that down below.
Which page are we talking about?
Vehicle maintenance, we had the 10,000, and then the ones for the filtration plant, 1,500.
You know, I've got old vehicles, and I put a lot of money in the maintenance. And anytime you go in for a repair anymore, and you save somebody, you're gonna shell out some money.
Can we ask how many vehicles are under the policy?
Yeah, it's, let's say it's, maybe sheet 3, you might wanna put, I hate to complain, but page numbers on this would be useful.
Yeah.
I already numbered mine.
Well, there was a first, and then, Patricia has the first, and I've got the second in this latest package, so it's changed a little bit. Okay, back to the vehicle. You've got $1,500 on vehicle maintenance.
But that's only for
That's just the water
treatment.
treatment, that's just the water treatment vehicles.
Under the next column down, transmission conduit,
So
Okay,
it's broken out by category.
okay.
then you've got the vehicle maintenance, including backhoe lot at 10,000.
That's under transmission distribution?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I was asking if that included the insurance for those vehicles, because it seemed low if you included the insurance.
Okay, and is the insurance listed elsewhere?
The vehicle insurance is listed, it's built into one of our other policies. That's on here, and I need to clarify that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So this one.
Anyone else? Any other comments about the proposed budget? If not, then this proposed budget with the changes that were suggested would be brought to the board at the next board meeting in June. The budget has to be adopted in June, so. We're done with that. That it? That's it? Yeah. Okay, so going down to, item number 5E, ordinance 2022-03, funding agreement, CCCSD SCADA electrical repair project. This is an action item, and Bill, if you bring us up to date on this.
Yeah, I lost my page, so I'll just shoot you up.
Do you want the ordinance in front of you?
No, not the ordinance, I had some notes.
We got it here.
Oh, here's.
But, I think it was last September, October, we applied, via the urgent drinking water needs application to perform some, needed electrical and SCADA upgrades to our well and booster station. And we were successful, for $487,000 of the grant. And I think part of the packet was the, email from the state saying that we were successful and that we needed to have an ordinance approved to assign somebody as a project director or manager. That would be me. And that's in short, that's kind of what we need to do. Review that ordinance and approve it.
Okay.
Yes. Somebody's got it.
Yes.
Just a question for clarification, is that a 100% grant or is there a grant loan?
It's 100% grant.
100% grant, so there's no funding aspect to it other than your action to approve it.
No,
Or,
So
It'll move it forward.
$477,000.
And so, and we've got a short time frame, so we need to simply approve this so that Bill can get that in and get the process started.
Yeah. We need the
so
money.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Well, first of all, are there any other comments from the?
It's free money.
Okay. If not, we'll bring it back to the board.
Is there any comments from the public?
There's none, so,
Well, thank you for getting it for us.
yes, absolutely, this is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you were about to make a
Yeah.
motion?
For ordinance number 2022-03.
Dated May the 18th, 2022. And I would like to second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, that's good, okay.
Okay.
So now we're gonna move down to item number 6, operations and administration. And, 6A is operations report, and that would be Bill.
Hold on, get up my last one here.
Go
Slow.
go too fast for you there, Bill.
Yeah, you guys are doing great up there.
Not even dark outside, you know?
I don't wanna hold you up. In March, we used, 7 acre feet of the McConnell water, 103 acre feet of well water. In April, we used 5 acre feet of the McConnell water, 95 acre feet of groundwater. And so far in May, we have used, that number's changed. It's now 8 acre feet of surface water and about 60 acre feet of groundwater. could I do this Friday before, so last Friday. So I kind of threw it up before the meeting. Water treatment plant's just doing its thing, we're drying out pond 3, for a sludge removal project we're gonna do this summer. I still have in my notes that the Bureau's gonna do their pulse flow June 17th to June 25th. The field crew is, preparing for lead and copper testing. That'll be starting next month, that'll go through the summer. We have a June to August or June to September window to complete that. Other than normal maintenance, there's nothing major to report. And that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you, Bill.
thank you, Bill.
So where are we in relationship to what we expected to use on the chart sheet? I don't have that in front of me.
The water schedule,
Correct.
so the 1,120 acre feet that we have scheduled for this year, we've used, 12 and 19, 20 acre feet so far
So
of surface water.
because we have to make adjustments to the McConnell water, are we at a position where we've got to submit any type of an adjustment?
Yeah, we have to reschedule water, a week before the end of the month. Otherwise we'll lose it. We can over, so if we schedule, I think 25 is our target number for May, and we use 30 acre feet, that's not a problem. We just have to pull it from another month to make up the difference. But if I only use 20 acre feet, then we would lose 5 acre feet. It disappears. Unless I reschedule.
Okay, so you've got that all under control.
Getting her figured out.
Okay.
And it's not an exact science.
We know that.
Yeah.
Cedric used to coordinate these things and he was, you know, I could look over his shoulder and I could see the schedule on his laptop, and I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't know if I brought the actual schedule.
And that's okay. You've got
Yeah, we had, for March, we had 5 acre feet scheduled, April was 5 acre feet. And then 25 was scheduled for May.
okay, so that's the water schedule.
Correct.
You know what the June schedule is?
Let's see if I have some notes on water. 200.
And if the district doesn't use that 200 plus acre feet, you lose it, but still have to pay for it?
If I don't reschedule, yes.
He'll reschedule it.
Just so everybody understands.
Yeah, you're talking about the McConnell water? Yeah, take it or pay.
Well, and
It's
Bill has a vacation plan,
Yes.
so we're gonna have this all.
Arrangements are being made.
But now that it's gotten a little hotter, I think we'll start using it.
Yeah, I think so too.
No, I don't have a
I can't believe how hot it
That's
is.
okay.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Any questions from the public?
I have a question, Bill. For this month, when are we, what was the date we're reading the meters?
They started today.
Oh, okay.
There's a schedule.
Yeah,
That's
it's on there.
That's right on the newsletter.
Yeah.
What month were you?
This month, May.
The May readings.
Yeah,
18.
I thought it was, but I just double checked.
Next month will be 14.
Sally, get run into that over.
Well, Bill, are you done, Bill?
I'm done.
Bill's done, okay.
Other
The
questions?
next item on the agenda is questions and public comments, but before we get to that, I'd like to switch up the last one and talk about the standing committee report about general manager vacancy, because somebody might have some question or comment about that as well. Let me just reiterate that we had a personnel committee meeting, and a lot of you folks were at that personnel committee meeting that we had. When we talked about the candidates that we got applications from, we didn't use their names, we gave them letter designations, but talked a bit about their qualifications or lack of qualifications. And at that particular meeting, of the personnel committee, 3 of the candidates were chosen, and I was asked to call them, and each one of them, and I was asked to ask, number 1, are you still interested in the position? Number 2, are you still working at the job that you had on your application? And number 3, what compensation package are you requesting from the district? Well, I did that. Went to the old telephone and picked it up and called those 3 people. The first one was candidate F. He said that he is still working for the district that was employed in then, still is employed. He's still interested in it. He asked for a package that would include everything in the package, approximately $136,000 a year, which would be everything. And he is, as I've mentioned, and I think I mentioned to everybody, my assessment of him, he was a very pleasant gentleman, very professional sounding gentleman, easy to talk to, good telephone presence. I then called the other gentleman, who is candidate F, and as most of you remember, he was one of the candidates that was out of state, and was the manager of a very, very, very large water district, and asked him if he was interested in the job, and the answer was no. I already got one. So we put him aside. He's not interested. So then after that, I asked the 3rd candidate that we had chosen if he was interested, and he turns out to be a candidate G, turns out to be a local guy, and talked to him. He's employed locally, and he is still interested in the job, but he has a lot of questions about the job because he's not sure whether he can handle the job unless he finds out what it is that he is supposed to do. And did mention to him that, well, all that was in the sheet that was given out to you. And he said, well, I've looked at that and I still have questions about the job. And I asked him what compensation package he was interested in, and he said that he would like at least a minimum of $90,000, and he would like increases as time went along, and he got experience in the job and knew more about the job as he went along. I thank him very much. He's still available. At our meeting last month, we had a closed session, and out of the closed session, in the closed session, I divulged, as I did to you tonight and before, what these candidates the 3 that I had interviewed initially had to say. And then there was one other candidate, as proposed by the audience that evening, that we took into consideration as well. And and that was candidate B, I believe. And so, coming out of closed session, we added candidate B to our list. And I called him just recently and asked him the 3 questions. We didn't get past the first question because he forgot that he even made an application to our district. And I had to remind him of that. And he said that, well, I think I still have it, so I better take a look at the application so I can respond better to your questions. So I said, okay, I will call you tomorrow morning and we will go over these questions that I have for you. He said, thank you very much, and he hung up. I called him the next morning and got his answering machine, and I told him that who I was and I would like him to call me back. He has never called back. So you can forget about candidate D as well. So what we have before us now is we have 2 candidates that are interested in the job, and my question to the board, I guess, would be, do you want to set up an interview with these 2 candidates?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
right away.
And Now, as I understand it, Bill, you can help us with this. I understand this is a closed session item. And so we would then interview or get in touch with these two candidates and, have them come here, obviously, which would be a pretty good idea, since they're both pretty close. And we would set a date for that meeting. Is that right? Would it be a day meeting or a night meeting?
Whatever works for a schedule,
Okay,
and like I said, the sooner the better.
sooner the better. Okay, is that what we would like to
Okay,
do?
I just have a question.
Okay,
We're still lacking one member.
still lacking one member.
And how long is it gonna take us to get another?
Well, I'm assuming we're gonna appoint somebody next month.
I've discussed with our interim manager, is our time frame. And we have a time frame. All I can say is, I'm extremely disappointed that tonight we don't have a full board.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
Because Bill's schedule, and when I looked at the calendar with Bill, and I'm not gonna try and run back through what we looked at, but we're not in a position to wait for another regular meeting and make a decision. What we've done is that we've looked at this. We've got a specific answer on the list with regards to, the questions about who, how we're gonna handle this. Item number 11, the recruitment process is considered confidential to mitigate the employer's risk of potential discrimination or other violations during the recruitment process and to protect the candidate's rights. The recruitment process regularly brings to light legally protected information under the Equal Employment Opportunity, EEO laws affecting this, and California Fair Employment and Housing Act, FEHA. We've been open to suggestions, we've discussed it, and it's in our best interest to do this ASAP. Schedule it. The other thing that concerns me is that we've really carried this about as far down the road as we can and still have any credibility with regards to the applicants themselves. We've got numbers with regards to the salaries. We've actually captured our budget to a point where what we can do is that we can appropriate this amount of money. And we can,
Right.
move forward. My recommendation is, let's move forward.
I can agree with that.
I can too.
I can agree with that, because we do need, time is of the essence.
The problem I have with my own schedule is that when we have action items, let's say, or we've got something that comes up, what happens is that I do a lot of preparation as I have tonight, or I did on the previous meeting. And what happens is when these things get delayed, something else comes along, and then it gets extremely confusing in order for me to find the information, to be focused, and to make a decision. We are prepared to make a decision.
Let me ask this of the board. Two questions. Number one, since this is an item that needs to be done ASAP, is the board willing to move forward with these interviews with just 4 members and not the 5th? That's number one. And then number two, would we be willing to interview these folks before the end of this month?
Do you need 5 for a tiebreaker or something?
Well,
No, we just need a consensus. There has to be 3 board members out of 5.
that's it. 4 would work. 5 would be better, but, and I have to agree with Chuck, time is of the essence. We need to move forward.
I heard the second question. What was the first?
The first one was, what was the first? Is the board willing to move forward with interviewing these,
Yes.
2 individuals with only 4 members?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the second question was, and I hear yes. And the second question was, do we have time, can we do this before the end of the month?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next week is the end of the month.
No, no.
2 weeks.
No, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So I can set up, I can call with Bill, get with Bill and call these two people and
Okay.
set up interviews. Would you rather schedule interviews in the evening or during the day?
During the day.
During the day?
And so we also need to be flexible with the candidates,
Yes.
position. The other thing that I did want to clarify was that on item number 10 was, item number 10 on the day two, community letter was requesting whether there could be a conflict of interest with Bill interviewing your potential boss of the position, utilizing another general manager, i.e. to sit in the process. So our clarification from Bill is that my role in the interview is to answer questions as they arise pertaining to the job description, functions of the district, wells, water treatment plant, and any other operational items. So Bill has clearly stated what his role with the interview process would be. So we sort of have a fifth person, but that's, would the public like to comment at all?
Yeah, I would.
Yes. Okay, Sandy, please.
I'll get there eventually.
Okay. It's
Just
not
be
dark yet.
careful.
Take your time.
It's just when I sit for a little while.
Yeah.
Once I get going, I'm okay. Sandy Winters, you know, we've had managers that never even talked to a board before they were placed in this position. And, I don't know why you're going through all this monkey motion now, let's just pick somebody and go on with life.
No.
So, I know you need another board member to help make this decision. We have a man here that's qualified in that department. So, I mean, our first manager was Archie Merrifield, and he deserved it. He worked hard to get this project passed. And then along come,
Arlen too.
Ron Tiff, oh boy. He come here to work on the pipeline. He didn't come here to be a manager. But he got a position, and his wife sometimes was employed in our district. And then Dick Urban, oh my gosh. He lost Rainbow Lake for us, never could make a good decision. And then here comes Char, she's payroll manager, not even a high school diploma. And all of a sudden, she's manager of our water district. And then she found Skip out there in the field, working as a field worker. But he knew how to do the paperwork. So he comes in the office and he's doing a lot of her work. Then they have a assistant manager they hired from Bernie, Bill Supa. And all of a sudden, let's see, that was about March. And then by October, Bill Supa was our manager. He'd been fired from the Bernie Water District, but they hired him anyway. So I can understand you're wanting to be real careful with this one. But when Skip took over, he'd been well trained by Shar, thank you.
Okay.
I couldn't help that, I'm sorry.
So the situation is that I will contact the two people
Right.
and set up a meeting as soon as we can.
Yes.
Right.
And then I'll get in touch with all.
And so I believe all of us have a flexible schedule.
Yeah, I do.
And however it matches your schedule and the two candidates.
Okay. Okay, we'll do it, get it done.
Yeah.
Now, we've come to the point, questions and public comments. Or I think,
Talk to the candidates first.
yeah, what, it wasn't an action item.
Gotcha.
Okay, questions from the public?
Can we go home?
That's it? Okay, we're gonna adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much all for being here. And see you next month. And hopefully we'll have